Sometimes focusing on the big picture isn't always the right answer.
Mm.
Welcome to Thank God It's Monday. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs. Joining me is Ted Fells, and we are the Digital Dudes. And today, I want to talk to you about how to become too legit to quit. That's right. How to become too legit to quit. And Ted, you got to bear with me as I hammer this point home. I just wanted to throw that
Mm-mm-mm.
in there. All right. How to become too legit to quit. And I open with a common cliche, right? Oh, you got to focus on the big picture. Motivational people will tell you that. You read that in the book. You always have to focus on the big picture, but that's not always the case, especially when you're facing a challenging season and difficult times. And for example, I have a friend who is, has this Navy background. He and I talk, and so he's very familiar with the Navy SEALs, the Elite Special Forces unit. And we were talking about how the attrition rate is so high with Navy SEALs. Like at least 80% of the people who attempt to become a Navy SEALs, they end up quitting at some point. Now, I was fascinated about this, and I know, too legit to quit. Certainly, I mean, these are the best that are trying to be Navy SEALs. And we started talking about some of the things that Navy SEAL candidates are required to do. So first, one of the things we talked about was they do these water exercises, right? They get dunked in water with some type of restraint to the point where they pass out. So the idea is to get them over the fear of water, because if you pass out and you survive, then there's nothing to fear. Surely, Ted, that's when they would want to quit. But he said no, that's not the case. That's not when most of the prospects quit. So they have other exercises where they're jumping out of planes and in the water. And again, I'm thinking, you're jumping out of planes all the time and something could go wrong and all of that. That would motivate somebody to want to give up and quit. No, that's not either.
Mm.
They do these exercises. They're running across the beach with these heavy canoes. You're running miles and miles and miles with these heavy canoes that you're carrying. No, that's not when they quit. Here's when they quit. And this surprised me. Most of the Navy SEAL prospects quit during breakfast.
Uh,
During breakfast. Why would they quit during breakfast? Here's what he said. He said because that's when they start thinking about the big picture. And they
mm.
start thinking about, you know what? Can I take weeks and weeks of this? Man, I'm just struggling just to get through the day. How am I going to do several more weeks? And of course, the Navy SEAL the actual Navy SEALs put them through the process, play mind games with them, and say, man, you got 10 more weeks of this. You sure you can hold up? You sure you're going to make it? You know, maybe they only have one more day, but
Mm.
they don't know that. The Navy SEAL prospects, the Navy SEAls are playing these mind games with them to get them to focus on the bigger picture. So here's the thing. If you want to become too legit to quit, this is something to lean into, especially if you're facing a struggle, you're facing a challenge, things are really hard right now. Here's how you become too legit to quit. You have to focus more on the next steps than you do the bigger picture. That's right.
Mm.
Focus more on the next steps than you do the bigger picture. So a lot of the Navy SEALs prospects that went on to make it and become Navy SEALs, they just got to the point where they were like, you know what? I'm not thinking about how much longer this is going to be. I just want to make it to lunch. Yeah, I just want to make it to the next meal. That's my goal. You know what? Hey, it's lunchtime. Great. I made it there. I just want to make it to bedtime. That's it. If I make it to bedtime, I won. And I did something similar to it when I ran a marathon. Instead of thinking about, okay, this is 26.2 miles, I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to make it to the next Gatorade stand. If I can get to that next stand, I know I'm winning. And that's how if you shorten things and you break things down, you're less likely to quit. You become too legit to quit because you're focusing on what's in front of you. You can just ask yourself the question, what can I control right now. And if you do that, you can be positioned to shout, thank God it's Monday. All right, Ted, the floor is yours. What are your thoughts?
First, when you said, you know, it was the breakfast was the situation. I was thinking, well, there must be some runny eggs or something that caused people to quit. Because I'm telling you, that water, that jumping out of planes, and all that stuff, man, that's some serious stuff. So respect to those Navy SEALs out there,
Absolutely.
man. Um, but yeah, I can see what you say. I think that if you're able to, you know, I think it's interesting. All the stuff that we talk about, there's different times for different stuff,
Yes.
right? Because some days it's yeah, you need to think about the big picture. Then some days you need to think about, like you said, what's the next step, right? So in all these tools, because you'll think that some of this stuff is kind of contradicts. One day you say look at the big picture. Next day you're saying this little, take a step. But I mean, I just think that whatever it is that you need to do, I mean, the different perspectives of this, I mean, I think are critical. And I can see how making that next step to just get me to this next point, give me something. A lot of people need something, like they need to know, okay, I accomplished something. Because if you did accomplish something, I mean, that's movement, right? Movement, at least if you know you're moving in the right direction,
Yes.
right? So if you have movement in the right direction, even if it's a small step, it's something, right? So if you say, oh man, I want to start a business, okay, well, you want to come up with a name, that's a step, right? You go out there and you get your tax ID, that's a step. I mean, you can't just start talking about, okay, I want to go get an office building, I want to go hire all these people, and then before you know it, you've overwhelmed, yourself. Even with working out, right? We talk about that. Okay, I'm gonna get a gym membership. I'm gonna get me some workout clothes, something to put on, right? I'm gonna get up in the morning and actually go, to the gym. Now you go there and you try to be there for 3 or 4 hours, and you're probably not gonna come back. But if you say, hey, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna put a good half an hour in just to get started, that's a step, in the right direction. So I just think that, what better time to have a step in the right direction than on Monday,
Absolutely.
right? It's whatever that is at your job or your business or just whatever it is that you're trying to do, make a step in the right direction, you know, today, and make it something that is, that you think is attainable, And so yeah, I can definitely see how that is how that can help your psyche.
For sure. And then, like a lot of times, like you're saying, you can be going into a venture that looks intimidating. And if you just look at the big picture, it's like, how am I going to do this? I'm trying to write a book. Oh my gosh, how am I going to write 300 pages? And how am I going to do this? How am I going to pick out the cover? How am I
Mm,
going to get it published? Da, da, da. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can think about. What's the marketing going to be like?
yeah.
Or you can say the next step is I'm going to call a successful author, right? Then you call a successful author, and then there's another step. So that's the way to look at this. So this has business applications as well. And I think, it does sound like sometimes we're talking about both sides of our neck, but I think the key thing is, when you're facing something adverse or challenging or overwhelming, that's when you focus on the next step. I think when the seas are calm, sure, yeah, let's focus on what's the big picture and what do we want to do. But I think again, this is key, and this will help you to become too legit to quit when you can break this thing down into bite-sized actions, set small goals that are achievable. You start to stack wins, you feel better, and before you know it, you are where you are. Because the thing we always have to remember is that you just never know how close you really are. You just never know. And you
Yeah.
will kick yourself for the rest of your life if you quit and you find out you were only one more contact away,
Mm.
but now you're out of the game, so there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So that's it. Thank God it's
That was
Monday.
good.
Hopefully we've inspired you to become too legit to quit. That is our time for this week. And until next time, have a great one.